What if I told you that right now your body is doing something absolutely remarkable? It is rebuilding itself, not slowly over years, but right now, at this very second, your gut lining replaces itself every 3 to 5 days. Your skin regenerates every 2 to 3 weeks, and your red blood cells are completely swapped out every 4 months. Your body is a self-healing machine working around the clock. But here is what most people never realize. The speed and quality of that repair process depends almost entirely on what you put into your body. Every single day, you could be giving your cells the raw materials they need to rebuild faster and stronger, or you could be starving them and wondering why you feel tired, why injuries linger, and why your body just does not bounce back the way it used to. I am going to walk you through 3 specific foods shown in peer-reviewed research to accelerate tissue repair, reduce chronic inflammation, and help your body do what it was designed to do, which is heal itself. I will explain the science-bust common myths and give you one actionable tip for each food. You can start today before we get into it. Let me set the foundation. Your body heals in 3 phases. First, the inflammatory phase, where your immune system rushes to damaged tissue to clean up dead cells. Second, the proliferative phase, where new tissue collagen and blood vessels are built. And third, the remodeling phase, where new tissue is strengthened. Every phase requires specific nutrients. If even one key nutrient is missing, the entire process slows down. It is like building a house without lumber or nails. You have the blueprint, but nothing gets built. These 3 superfoods provide the raw materials for every phase simultaneously, and that is what makes them so powerful. Superfood number 1 is bone broth. I know some of you are rolling your eyes. You have heard about bone broth before, but the reason it keeps coming up is because the science behind it is genuinely impressive. When you simmer bones for 12 to 24 hours, heat and water break down bones, cartilage, tendons, and connective tissue, releasing compounds that are critical for human tissue repair. The most important are collagen and gelatin, amino acids like glycine, proline, and glutamine, minerals like calcium, magnesium, and phosphorus, and glycosaminoglycans, including hyaluronic acid, chondroitin, and glucosamine. Collagen is the most abundant protein in your body, making up roughly 30% of all protein. It is the structural component of your skin, tendons, ligaments, cartilage, bones, blood vessels, and gut lining. It is essentially the scaffolding holding you together. After age 25, your natural collagen production declines by about 1 to 1.5% per year, accelerating as you get older. This is why skin loses elasticity, joints get stiffer, injuries heal slower, and the gut becomes more vulnerable. Bone broth gives your body a direct source of collagen and the specific amino acids needed to build new collagen. A common myth is that when you eat collagen, it just breaks down into generic amino acids in your stomach and does nothing specific for collagen production on the surface. That sounds logical, but research tells a different story. A study published in the journal Nutrients in 2019 found that collagen peptides are broken down into specific dipeptides and tripeptides containing hydroxyproline that are absorbed intact into the bloodstream. And these specific peptides have been shown to stimulate fibroblasts, which are the cells responsible for producing new collagen. So you are not just providing raw materials, you are sending a signal to your cells to ramp up collagen production. A meta-analysis in the International Journal of Dermatology, examining 19 randomized controlled trials with over 1,000 participants, found that collagen peptides significantly improved skin hydration, elasticity, and reduced wrinkles compared to placebo. And those are just the skin benefits. Glycine is another amino acid abundantly found in bone broth, and it plays a critical role in repair. Glycine is necessary for synthesizing glutathione, which is your body's master antioxidant. Glutathione protects new cells from oxidative damage during the repair process. Think of it this way. When your body is healing, it generates a lot of metabolic activity that produces free radicals. If you do not have enough antioxidant capacity, those free radicals damage the very cells your body is trying to build. Glycine also has direct anti-inflammatory properties. A study in the Journal of Inflammation found that glycine helps reduce pro-inflammatory cytokines, helping your body transition out of the inflammatory phase more efficiently. This matters because one of the biggest problems in chronic disease and slow healing is that the body gets stuck in the inflammatory phase and never properly moves to rebuilding. Glutamine is the 3rd key compound in bone broth, and it deserves special attention. Glutamine is the primary fuel source for the enterocytes, which are the cells lining your gut. Your gut lining is one of the most rapidly regenerating tissues in your body, replacing itself every 3 to 5 days, and it requires enormous amounts of glutamine. Without sufficient glutamine, your gut lining cannot maintain its integrity, leading to increased intestinal permeability, which is associated with autoimmune conditions, food sensitivities, chronic inflammation, and poor nutrient absorption. A study in clinical nutrition found that glutamine supplementation significantly reduced intestinal permeability in critically ill patients, and similar findings have been reported in athletes who experience gut barrier disruption from intense exercise. So bone broth is not just rebuilding connective tissue. It is rebuilding the very system that allows you to absorb nutrients from everything else you eat. Now, here is the myth that frustrates me most about bone broth. Most people think any store-bought bone broth will give them these benefits, and that is simply not true. Most commercial bone broths are cooked briefly, heavily diluted, and contain very little actual collagen or gelatin. Here is how you test it. Put your bone broth in the refrigerator overnight. If it does not gel up and become thick and jiggly like gelatin, it does not have enough collagen to make a real difference. Real bone broth should become almost solid when cold. That gelatinous texture is your quality indicator. Your actionable tip for bone broth is this: make your own. It is easier than you think. Get grass-fed beef bones or organic chicken carcasses. Put them in a slow cooker, cover with water. Add 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar to help extract minerals from the bones. Add some onion, celery, and carrots if you want, and let it simmer for at least 12 hours for chicken and 24 hours for beef. Do it overnight while you sleep, strain it, and store it in the refrigerator or freezer, then aim for 1 cup per day. You can drink it warm as a savory beverage. Use it as the base for soups or cook your rice and grains in it. If you buy commercial, look for brands stating long simmer times and check that protein content is at least 7 to 10 grams per serving, which indicates meaningful collagen content. Superfood number 2 is wild-caught salmon. And while most people immediately think omega-3s, there is so much more happening here that I want to unpack completely, because once you understand the full picture, you will look at this food completely differently. Wild-caught salmon is one of the richest food sources of EPA and DHA, 2 specific omega-3 fatty acids that play very specific and well-researched roles in the repair process. Most people think inflammation is the enemy and needs to be completely eliminated, but that is wrong. Inflammation is an essential part of healing. Your body needs it to clean up damaged tissue and fight infection. The problem is when inflammation does not resolve properly, when your body gets stuck in that inflammatory phase and cannot transition to rebuilding. EPA helps your body produce specialized compounds called resolvins and protectins, also known as specialized pro-resolving mediators. Their specific job is to actively resolve inflammation to signal your immune system that cleanup is complete and it is time to start rebuilding. This is fundamentally different from suppressing inflammation, the way anti-inflammatory drugs work. Those drugs can actually interfere with healing because they suppress the entire inflammatory process, including the necessary parts. EPA ensures inflammation follows. Its natural course starts when needed, does its job, then resolves properly. So rebuilding can begin. A landmark study published in Nature in 2014 identified the molecular pathways through which EPA-derived resolvins promote tissue repair, finding that these compounds actively stimulate macrophages to clear debris from damaged tissue and promote regeneration of new tissue. This showed that omega-3s are not passively anti-inflammatory, they are actively pro-resolution and pro-repair. DHA is the most abundant omega-3 in your brain and nervous system, making up roughly 40% of polyunsaturated fats in the brain, and it is essential for neural repair, and neuroplasticity studies show that higher DHA levels are associated with better cognitive recovery after brain injury. And DHA is also a critical structural component of cell membranes throughout your entire body. Every cell is surrounded by a membrane made of fat, and the composition of that membrane determines how well the cell functions, how efficiently it communicates, receives nutrients, and expels waste. When you have adequate DHA, your cell membranes are fluid, flexible, and functional. When deficient, they become stiff and rigid, and everything slows down. Think of cell membranes as doors. DHA keeps those doors well oiled. Without it, they get rusty and stuck. But here is where salmon goes beyond omega-3s and into something truly remarkable, a compound called astaxanthin. This is a carotenoid pigment that gives salmon its distinctive pink color, and it is one of the most powerful antioxidants found in nature. Studies show astaxanthin is up to 6,000 times more potent than vitamin C, up to 800 times more potent than CoQ10, and up to 500 times more potent than vitamin E at neutralizing a specific type of free radical called singlet oxygen. Why does this matter for repair? When your body is healing, there is intense metabolic activity generating free radicals. If those free radicals are not neutralized, they damage the new cells. Your body is trying to create astaxanthin acts as an incredibly efficient protector for those new vulnerable cells. But what makes it truly unique is that unlike most antioxidants which work only in the water-soluble or fat-soluble part of your cell membrane, astaxanthin spans the entire cell membrane, anchoring across both layers and protecting from both sides. This is extremely unusual and makes it one of the most effective cell membrane protectors ever studied. A study in the journal Marine Drugs found that astaxanthin significantly reduced markers of oxidative stress and inflammation and improved blood flow to tissues, which is critical for delivering nutrients to repair sites. A typical 6-ounce serving of wild-caught salmon provides roughly 34 grams of complete protein containing all 9 essential amino acids, along with the omega-3s, astaxanthin B vitamins, including B12 and B6 selenium and vitamin D. Most people are deficient in vitamin D, which plays a critical role in immune function and repair. It is a comprehensive repair food, addressing multiple phases simultaneously. The myth about salmon that I hear constantly is that farm-raised is just as good as wild-caught. This is not true. Farm-raised salmon is typically fed grain-based pellets, corn, and soy, which dramatically changes its nutritional profile. Farm-raised salmon has significantly lower astaxanthin levels. In fact, most farm-raised salmon would be gray, without synthetic astaxanthin added to the feed. It also has a much higher ratio of omega-6 to omega-3 fatty acids because of the grain-based diet, and excessive omega-6 relative to omega-3 actually promotes inflammation, which is the opposite of what you want. The most nutrient-dense wild-caught varieties are sockeye salmon for the highest astaxanthin content and king salmon for the highest omega-3 content. Your actionable tip for salmon is to eat it at least 2 to 3 times per week, with servings of 4 to 6 ounces. Bake it, broil it, pan, sear it, or consider canned salmon, which is almost always wild-caught, retains its nutritional profile extremely well, and is much more affordable. Here is something most people do not know about canned salmon. Eat the soft bones, mash them into the fish, and you will not notice them, but you get an excellent source of calcium and phosphorus. If you cannot tolerate fish, consider algal oil, which provides DHA from the same algae that fish consume, but always prioritize whole food sources, because you get the full spectrum, including astaxanthin protein and micronutrients, that no supplement provides. Superfood. Number 3 is blueberries. And I want to address the eye rolling right now. Yes, blueberries. These small, ordinary-looking fruits. But when you examine the research, you will understand why scientists have devoted so much time studying this specific food. The power of blueberries comes primarily from anthocyanins, a class of flavonoid polyphenols responsible for their deep blue-purple color. Blueberries have one of the highest concentrations of anthocyanins of any commonly available food, and the specific types found in blueberries have been extensively studied. Anthocyanins work by modulating something called the NF-kappa B pathway, which is essentially the master switch for inflammation in your body. When NF-kappa B is activated, it turns on genes that produce inflammatory cytokines and inflammatory enzymes like COX-2, which is the same enzyme targeted by ibuprofen. Chronic activation of NF-kappa B is a hallmark of virtually every major inflammatory disease, including heart disease, diabetes, arthritis, and Alzheimer's. A study in the Journal of Agricultural and Food Chemistry found that blueberry anthocyanins significantly reduced NF-kappa B activation in human cells exposed to inflammatory stimuli, and a study in the Journal of Nutrition found that consuming blueberries daily for 6 weeks significantly reduced blood levels of inflammatory markers, including interleukin-6 and tumor necrosis factor alpha in obese adults with metabolic syndrome. But here is what truly sets blueberries apart from other antioxidant foods, and this is something I find absolutely remarkable. Anthocyanins activate your body's own internal defense and repair systems through a process called hormesis. When you consume anthocyanins, they interact with a pathway called NRF2, which stands for nuclear factor erythroid 2, related factor 2, and it is the master regulator of your body's antioxidant and detoxification defenses. When NRF2 is activated, it triggers hundreds of protective genes, including those that produce glutathione superoxide, dismutase, and enzymes involved in DNA repair. This means blueberry anthocyanins are not just acting as antioxidants themselves. They are telling your cells to produce more of their own antioxidants and repair enzymes. This is profoundly different from taking an isolated antioxidant supplement. Supplements neutralize free radicals one at a time, but whole food polyphenols activate entire cascades of protective gene expression. The effect is amplified and sustained long after the anthocyanins themselves have left your bloodstream. Blueberries are also among the most studied foods for brain repair. A study following over 16,000 women for 20 years published in the Annals of Neurology found that those consuming the most blueberries had the slowest rate of cognitive decline, with high intake associated with delaying cognitive aging by up to 2.5 years. Another study found that consuming blueberry juice daily for 12 weeks significantly improved memory in older adults with early memory decline, with functional MRI scans showing increased activity in brain regions associated with learning and memory. The reason blueberries work in the brain is that their anthocyanins are among the very few dietary compounds capable of crossing the blood-brain barrier. Most antioxidants cannot do this, but blueberry anthocyanins can, and once in the brain, they accumulate in the hippocampus and cortex, where they reduce neuroinflammation by calming overactivated microglia, which are the brain's resident immune cells. They also promote neuroplasticity by increasing expression of brain-derived neurotrophic factor, or BDNF, which promotes the growth of new neurons and strengthens connections between existing ones. Blueberries also dramatically improve blood vessel function, which directly supports repair, because your body cannot heal what it cannot reach. A randomized controlled trial published in the Journal of Gerontology found that consuming 200 grams of blueberries produced measurable improvements in blood vessel function within just 2 hours. The researchers measured flow-mediated dilation, which is how well blood vessels relax and expand, and found significant improvements that with daily consumption over 1 month became sustained. The mechanism involves nitric oxide, which signals blood vessels to relax and dilate. Blueberry anthocyanins increase nitric oxide production in the endothelial cells lining your blood vessels, meaning better delivery of oxygen, nutrients, and immune cells to every tissue that is repairing itself. Blueberries also feed your gut microbiome, and emerging research shows that a significant portion of their benefits may be mediated through this pathway. Certain beneficial gut bacteria metabolize blueberry polyphenols into smaller bioactive compounds that have their own anti-inflammatory and repair-promoting effects. So when you eat blueberries, you are feeding both yourself and the trillions of microbes that support your immune system and regulate systemic inflammation. The myth about blueberries is that you need fresh organic ones to get the benefits, and frozen are inferior. This is actually backwards. Studies show frozen blueberries retain their anthocyanin content extremely well because they are flash frozen at peak ripeness. One study in the Journal of the Science of Food and Agriculture found frozen blueberries had comparable and sometimes higher anthocyanin levels than fresh ones stored in the refrigerator for several days. Frozen wild blueberries are often superior to fresh cultivated ones because wild blueberries are smaller with a higher skin-to-flesh ratio. And since anthocyanins are concentrated in the skin, wild varieties can contain up to twice the anthocyanins of cultivated ones. Your actionable tip for blueberries is 1 cup every single day, that is about 140 grams. And studies show this amount is sufficient to produce measurable improvements in blood vessel function, inflammatory markers, and cognitive performance. Add them to a smoothie. Put them on oatmeal, mix them into yogurt, or eat frozen ones straight from the bag. They are genuinely delicious frozen. Look for wild low bush blueberries in the frozen fruit section. They are affordable, widely available, and pack the most nutritional punch. Now here is what most people miss about these 3 foods. They are exponentially more powerful together. Bone broth provides the structural building blocks, collagen, amino acids, minerals to physically construct new tissue. It supports gut health, ensuring you absorb nutrients efficiently. Salmon resolves inflammation through EPA, and DHA protects new cells with astaxanthin and provides complete protein as additional building blocks. Blueberries activate your internal repair systems through NRF2, inhibit chronic inflammation through NF-kappa, cross the blood-brain barrier for neurological repair, improve blood flow to deliver everything else, and feed the gut microbiome that underlies immune function together. They address every phase and every aspect of the repair process, which no single supplement can come close to replicating. One more thing I need to say, because it is critical. You can eat all 3 of these foods every day, but if you are simultaneously consuming large amounts of refined sugar, processed seed oils, and ultra-processed food, you are working against yourself. Refined sugar promotes the formation of advanced glycation end products, which directly damage collagen, making it stiff, brittle, and dysfunctional. So you could be drinking bone broth to build collagen while sugar destroys it simultaneously. Excessive omega-6 from processed seed oils competes with omega-3 for incorporation into cell membranes, diluting the anti-inflammatory benefits of your salmon. The most beneficial dietary approach combines adding these repair foods and reducing the things actively interfering with healing. Here is your one-step action to start today. Add 1 cup of blueberries to tomorrow morning. That is all just 1 cup. I am starting here because it requires 0 preparation costs. Very little is available everywhere, and research shows benefits begin within 2 hours of your first serving. Once that becomes habit, add bone broth a few times a week, then add salmon twice weekly. You build the foundation 1 step at a time, but it starts with blueberries tomorrow. These foods are not a substitute for medical care. If you have a specific condition or injury, please work with your healthcare provider. These are evidence-based complementary strategies that support your body's natural healing processes, and they work best as part of an overall approach that includes adequate sleep, regular movement, and appropriate medical treatment. Drop the word repair in the comments right now so I know you made it this far, and tell me which of these 3 you are going to start with. First, I read every single comment, and I genuinely want to know if you found this valuable. Please subscribe and turn on notifications, because next week I am covering the 3 foods that actually slow down your body's ability to heal, and some of them are labeled as health foods, which makes it even more important that you watch that video. You do not want to miss it. Thank you for being here. Your body is remarkable. Give it what it needs to do. It's Joe.